when they say, okay, now let me read out the verse, because this is how we should be able to decipher the text. See here, Angahareshu vakshayami karneshu cha vaidvijaha. Sarvesham angaharanam nishpattih karnair yataha. All the angaharas, they derive from karanas. But as I explained to you, the real thing is that the angahara, in parallel, it is the tune or the raga, and it is within that raga that there are certain notes. Similarly, within that angahara, there are different karanas. And karanas are the last still of a movement that takes place from earlier kshetra or portion or the end of another karana. So a karana is actually a movement that takes place from the end of one karana to another karana. So that is the movement. But how do we know it? How do we define it? By the last portion. By the last position that you have taken. So this is what is performed is an angahara. What is performed is a rechak. And this is a continuous movement. An angahara could be produced, it could be enacted in drutalay, in vilambit lay, in ati vilambit lay, or from drut to vilambit, or from vilambit to druta. This is what is called yati. So this is how, yes? Yes. No. One angahara will have various karanas, yes. Karanas, that's right. Simple as that. And when you say the two karanas combine, then they call it matrika. See, this is the process of education. This is for training purpose. For instance, if I want my child, ask you to do the Varnamala in this sequence, ka, kha, ga, gha, cha, cha, ja, ja, na. But they tell the child to write a word, kamala. So the child writes ka, then ma and la. Now this is not in this kavarga, chavarga, etc. sequence, right? It is as kamala. Because they say, we show the kamal, we make him pronounce kamal, and we make him write ka, ma and la. So ma does not belong to kavarga, la does not belong to kavar, ka, kha, ga, cha, cha, ka, kha, ga, ha. Then, in spite of this, we start the child to recognize sounds and letters in association with certain practical words and objects which can be shown. So this is another method. This is another method. This is another classification. But even after following this classification, you would have to come back to Kavarga and learn the Varnamala to see the sequence for another reason. Because you have to consult a dictionary. A dictionary has to be according to the sequence of letters. Earlier dictionaries were not written that way. Amarakosh, etc. They were written in terms of synonyms, for which we have a different classification of dictionary called thesaurus, right? So remember that this is for the purpose of an aid. Now how this aid was used long time back, I have no idea. It's only if we happen to discover some manuscript, which is very unlikely because manuscripts don't last in India for that long. They were made of highly perishable material. These things have survived because they were made on stone. Otherwise, you would have a hard time making sense out of just the descriptions given here. Now, from Karana, we go to Angahara, which you understand, and the different kinds of Karanas which are given. This is the alphabet, which is explained very well in the 4th chapter. But from the 4th chapter, we go on after the explanation of Karana, Angahara, Rechit, and all these different sequences to something practical which is to be used. And hence, we go on to the next chapter, the 5th chapter, which yesterday I did. So, actually now, we have to talk of the 6th chapter. And the 6th chapter makes a break from these earlier sequences. Why and what kind? Now, if you just recall, the first chapter is Natyotpatti. Why do we practice the art form called Natya, drama, theatre, all put together, Natya? Why do we? Who gave it birth? Why did it come into existence? What is it? Is it worthwhile or not? Then we come to the question, what is the sacredness of it? And therefore the Ranga Pujan. Where it is to be performed, therefore the theatre house. What is to be performed in it? First of all, we come to the most physical aspect of it. The physical aspect is the Angik Abhinay. And the Angik Abhinay, the body movement, comes into Karana, Matrika, Angahara, Rechaka, and different other steps that you practice here. So, this much done, we go to something else. We go to the fact, the reason as to why, to a broader question, as to why the whole art form is performed and what do we get out of it. According to some people, maybe the 6th chapter should have come right at the end. If you take the verse which I described to you, Rasa, Bahavah, Abhinayah, Dharmi, Vritti, Pravittayah, Siddhi, Swaras, Tatha, Todyam, Ganam, Rangascha, Sangrah, then in this there is a sequence, something which is most subtle, like Rasa, is enunciated in the beginning. And we have Ranga, the theatre house, which is the sthulatam, which is the most material thing at the end. So there is a sequence here, Ras, Bhava, because Rasa cannot come out of anything else except a Bhava. And all these start with Abhinay. Abhinays, of course, are of 4 kinds. How is it that Abhinays are found? Abhinays are determined by the fact of the nature of your performance, whether it is going to be Natya Dharmi or it is going to be Loka Dharmi. I will come to this later, that Lok Dharmi is not realism, it is not folk, but there is a difference between the two. So Abhinay has to be either Natya Dharmi or Loka Dharmi. Then how do you choose whether you are going to perform Natya Dharmi or Loka Dharmi? Because that will come out of the idea of the vritti. So, if it is Kaishiki vritti, then it will become more Natya Dharmi. You may have a little difficulty in following what I am saying, but for the time being, just swallow it. So, vritti, 4 vrittis, Kaishiki, Bharati, Satvati and Arabhati. These will determine the kind of Abhinay that you will do. So hence you go to something which gives rise to Abhinay. Now these vrittis are performed on the stage or in Natya, but this Natya is performed at some place in India. It is performed before an audience. And that audience has different kinds of tastes. So in southern India, they want more of Kaishiki Vritti. Right? Because they love music and dance more. But the Bengalis love a little Vag Adambar. You know, they were very bombastic people. So it's a different pravritti. And hence, you have to perform it in a different style. The same play in Bengal should be performed with a greater touch of Satvati, Arabhati and Satvati. In fact, they are a little dubious about this in Natshas. They call it Udra Magadhi Vritti. If you go to Haryana, where people are ready to beat you up at the slightest excuse, then it is Arabhati. And if you go into Gujarat, and then you can have a dialogue. People generally are more willing to discuss things. Now, this is a general classification which is made about the nature of the people living in India. Whether you accept it or not, that is a different matter. But somehow this has been done. I find it very reasonably true. Now, therefore, vrittis are to be chosen according to the pravritti. But these pravrittis are for the purpose of either pleasing human beings or gods or both, therefore siddhi. And this siddhi is primarily dependent on speech. Even before the angik, therefore swar. But swar cannot be performed unless there is a supportive instrument, therefore atodya. And atodya cannot be performed, swar cannot be performed unless there is dance and dhruvagan, and all this is done in the ranga. Now this is the logic behind this particular shlok. The logic which is followed in the ordering of the chapters in Natya Shastra now is that after defining why Natya and how Natya and what is the most fundamental language of Natya, which is Angik Abhinay, they come to the question, what do you get out of Natya? And they say we get ras. Just as you get energy out of food, because that is the ultimate purpose of eating, then of course of enjoying and all that, but unless you get energy, so they say the ultimate purpose is rasa. Now it is in the beginning of this chapter, rasa itself, the rasa chapter, that this shloka has occurred. Rasa Bahavah Abhinayah. The shlok comes in the 6th chapter. The chapters up to this point describe more or less the physicality of Natya, the origin, the reason, the history, and then the physicality in terms of action and in terms of the theatre house. Yeah. Could you be a little louder or take the mic?
the chapters, were they defined and put into an order at a later date?
You mean, was
Like-
this order followed in Abhinav Gupta's time?
Or was
Is
it,
that the question?
Yes. Or was this pre-Abhinayah Gupta time?
Yes, it was followed because the ordering of the Natya Shastra that we have, the text that we have of the Natya Shastra is from the books of Abhinav Gupta or the commentary of Abhinav Gupta. It is the tradition of Abhinav Gupta which had this chapter sequence. As I told you yesterday, these Shastras were preserved by different schools of learning. So there was a school of Natya Shastris, people who would be teaching Natya Shastra. They would be acharyas of Natya Shastra. Just as they were acharyas of performance, like Guruji here, he would be teaching performance. How to perform, how to sing, how to dance, how to put up a play, how to take the the theater company across this country, etc. Just as they were Natyacharyas, and then the Mahanatas, the great actors, etc. Similarly, there were people who were teaching the Shastra called Natya Shastra. They would have manuscripts of Natya Shastra, the Grantha written, and they would have a line of students, one after another, a parampara. So, Abhinav Gupta went to learn the Natya Shastra from his teacher called Bhatta Taut. He went to Bhatta Taut, and I think he went to another teacher also, some people say. Some people say he didn't go anywhere. Bhatta Taut was in Kashmir itself. There is a controversy. So, the line preserved the chapters. They made the chapters. They were the ones who made the recensions or the collations. So, this sequence which we have is found in the manuscripts of Abhinav Gupta's commentary. So the teachers used to have these manuscripts, dictate the commentary, and the students would write the commentary. Every 25 to 30 years, the manuscript would have to be rewritten. And those who had very good calligraphic ability, they would copy out. I think maybe some people were given reservation for admission because they had good handwriting. Whatever. So this was the scheme of preservation of that Natya Shastra or the text. And it is from Abhinav Gupta only that we have the chapter division. We do not have the commentary of some other famous commentators like Lollat or like Shankuk or like Bhattanayak, who are referred to in this commentary. Obviously they had their schools, they had their line of teaching, but none of the manuscripts has survived. If you tomorrow discover somewhere a manuscript, then maybe that would have a different sequence of chapters. Maybe, who knows? And then we would be able to see another kind of commentary and very different kind of information would come about. Yes, please. Well, they are in different libraries in India. Recently, about 5 or 6 years ago, some manuscripts were found in Nepal also, and now they are trying to collate them to the present manuscript, and that work is being done at BHU, Banaras Hindu University, and for the time being the manuscripts are there. So preservation of manuscripts, another big issue in India, and not much has been done about it, but they are in different museums or in libraries. and scholars go to them in order to prepare new edition or to do research. All right. So, in the 6th chapter, it is again the question which is asked. They say that we asked you some questions earlier, the 5 questions about which we talked about on the very first day. And now they say, Ye rasa iti pathyante natye natya vichakshanai rasatvam kena vaitesham etad akhyatum arhasi. So he says, Bharat Muni, you are now the very capable person who will be able to tell us what actually are the rasas. And not just the rasas, bhavaschaiva katham prokta, kimva te bhavayantyapi. What are the bhavas? And what do these bhavas throw light upon? What do they actually expand? Sangraham karikam chaiva niruktam chaiva tattvataha. You should be able to tell us. And then of course, he gives the reply, Aham vaha kathaishyami nikhilena tapodhanaha sangraham karika chaiva niruktam cha yathakrama. I will give you first of all the sangraha. The sangraha shloka is what we talked about.